Reborn in Venice, the villainess cheats her way through the Renaissance with modern knowledge. Emily Watson woke with a start, crouched over a musty wooden toilet in the Duke of Venice's palace. Through the cracks, she could see the canal below, where rats rummaged through floating piles of garbage. "Oh my God!" she gasped, yanking up her skirts only to trip over the heavy hoop skirt. An impatient knock came from the door. "Emma, are you planning to stay in there until St. Mark's Square sinks?" It hit her then. She had traveled back in time. Emily, a UC Berkeley art history student who'd fallen asleep while cramming for finals, had woken up as Emma Rossi, the daughter of a 16th century Venetian merchant. Worse, she vaguely remembered this as the plot of a Renaissance-era novel she'd skimmed the night before. "Coming," she replied in broken Italian, fumbling with the intricate corset ties. A flood of foreign memories rushed in. She had a twin sister, Isabella. Her father, Marco, was a drunkard merchant, and her mother, Anna, was planning to divorce. The moment she stepped out, their neighbor, Signora Maria, grabbed her arm. "Holy Mother of God! Your parents are at the Doge's palace filing for divorce. Your mother's run off with the Medici family steward. She's taking you girls to Florence." Emily's eyes widened. In the original story, Isabella would go to Florence and become a nobleman's mistress, only to be poisoned by his wife, while Emma, who stayed in Venice, would win the Doge's favor and become the city's wealthiest merchant. "I need to get back," she muttered. But as she turned the corner, she collided with a doctor in a plague mask. "Beware the Black Death!" the man shrieked, his bloodletting tools clattering. In the Rossi family's parlor, Anna was packing her belongings. She was younger and prettier than Emily had imagined, hardly looking like the mother of two 15-year-old girls. "Mother," a honeyed voice called from the stairs, "are you really leaving Venice?" Emily turned to see a girl who looked just like her, but far more radiant, Isabella. Anna wiped her tears. "Your father gambled away our last trade ship to the Jews, and he hit me." She showed the bruises on her arm. "Signor Giovanni has offered to take us to Florence." Emily noticed the calculating glint in Isabella's eyes. Sure enough, her sister suddenly dropped to her knees, clutching their mother's skirts. "Take me with you, Mother. Father will sell me off to that Genoese old man." 2,000 ducats. Anna shook her head in despair. "Your father will never let you go." Just as Emily was about to speak, a melody floated through the window. She pushed open the shutters and saw a fleet of gondolas passing by, led by a red-haired young man strumming a lute. "Who's that?" she blurted. "Titian's new apprentice," Isabella scoffed. "Just a poor painter." But Emily didn't miss the blush creeping up her sister's ears. The next morning, Emily was jolted awake by shouting. She crept downstairs to find her father, Marco, hurling a parchment scroll at Anna's face. "Take my daughters? Over my dead body," Marco slurred. "Isabella's already betrothed to the Genoese. As for Emma, well, the convent might take her, scrawny as she is." Anna turned desperately to the black-clad man at the door, Giovanni, the Medici steward. The man said coldly, "My master will only take one girl." At that moment, Isabella dramatically fainted. "Sister!" Emily rushed over, only to hear Isabella whisper in her ear, "This time, I'm staying in Venice." It dawned on Emily. Her sister had also been reborn. In the original story, Isabella's fate in Florence was tragic, while Emma thrived in Venice. "Mother," Emily suddenly said, "let Isabella go with you. I'm too frail for the journey." She coughed weakly for effect. Giovanni frowned. "She does look like she won't last the winter," he said, eyeing Emily's thin frame. After a heated argument, it was decided. Isabella would go to Florence, while Emily stayed in Venice. As she watched the gondola disappear, a cold laugh sounded behind her. "Now let's discuss your marriage prospects," Marco said, gripping her ear. "The convent of San Zaccaria needs a laundress." Just as Emily was losing hope, a booming voice echoed across the canal. "Wait, that girl? Yes, the one thin as a reed. Would you like to model for me?" A lavish gondola pulled up, and a red-bearded man doffed his wide-brimmed hat. "I am Tiziano Vecelli, seeking a model for Mary Magdalene." Emily nearly choked. Titian, one of the Renaissance's greatest masters? This wasn't in the original story. "She's my daughter," Marco snapped. 2 ducats a day, Titian said flatly. "Oh, deal." And just like that, Emily escaped the convent. On the way to the studio, she crossed the Rialto Bridge and saw a red-capped young man sketching. "The composition's off," she muttered, her art history instincts kicking in. "The perspective should..." The young man looked up, startled. "You know perspective theory?" Emily suddenly recognized him. The young Tintoretto. She hurried away, but his voice followed. "Wait! What's your name? 3 months later, Emily was working as Titian's assistant. As she ground pigments, a familiar cough made her freeze. Sister? Isabella stood there in a lavish Florentine gown, her face pale. That bastard. He wasn't a Medici steward at all, she sobbed. He was a fraud who sold us to a Sienese brothel. Mother's sick. I escaped. Emily gasped. In the original story, Isabella did end up a prostitute. But not this soon. Then a thought struck her. Wait, if Giovanni was fake, then the real Medici family is looking for you. A deep voice came from the doorway. A knight in black removed his helmet. I am captain of the guard to Lorenzo de Medici. Someone has been impersonating my lord to traffic women. We traced them here. Emily and Isabella exchanged glances. The knight continued. Stranger still, we found that Marco Rossi's gambling debts all led back to the same Genoese merchant. The one who wanted to buy me? Isabella cried. Emily's eyes widened. This is a setup. Someone's trying to tear our family apart. Emily settled her sister in the attic of Titian's studio, pressing a damp cloth to Isabella's fevered brow. Isabella weakly clutched her hand. That Giovanni, he said the Medicis had no idea we even existed. Something's not right, Emily frowned. In the original, Mom was definitely a Medici bastard. What original? Isabella asked, confused. Emily quickly backtracked. I mean, there's more to this story. Just then, Titian's booming laughter echoed from downstairs. Ha! Little Reed, your admirer's back. Emily peeked out the window. It was the red-capped young man, Tintoretto. He stood below, holding up a sketch. Signorina, I fixed the perspective like you said. It's perfect now. Isabella managed a weak smile. Since when are you courting a future master? It's just art talk. Emily flushed as she hurried downstairs. Tintoretto eagerly showed his revised drawing. See? I used your vanishing point technique. Titian examined it and nearly dropped his brush. God's blood! This is more advanced than Brunelleschi. He narrowed his eyes at Emily. Girl, where'd you learn this? Emily panicked, until a commotion erupted at the canal. Masked figures dragged a bloodied man toward the water. Genoese, Tintoretto whispered. Emily's breath caught. The victim was the same elderly merchant who tried to buy Isabella. At dawn, a scarlet-robed herald pounded on the studio door. Emma Rossi? His Serenity the Doge summons you to the Palazzo Ducale. Titian's palette clattered to the floor. St. Mark's bones. Since when do you know the Doge? Emily herself was stunned. This scene belonged in the original story, but 6 months later. Her knees trembled as she entered the gilded chamber, only to freeze. The throne held not the elderly Doge, but a hawk-faced man. I am the new Doge, Andrea Gritty, he sneered. We hear you. Predict the future? Emily's legs nearly gave out. Yesterday at the market, she'd prophesied a thief's escape route to help an old woman. Your Serenity, that was just luck. Luck? Gritty flung down parchment. Then explain this. 3 days ago, you said the Spanish merchant's hall would burn, and last night it did. Emily turned white. She'd only said it because she remembered the fire from history books. Lock her up, the Doge told guards. When the Inquisition arrives... Hold! A voice rang from the side door. Lorenzo de Medici swept in, ermine cloak flaring. Gritty, you've mistaken my cousin for a witch. In the carriage to Florence, Lorenzo finally explained, Anna is indeed my uncle's bastard. Someone wants Medici blood gone from Venice, hence your family's ruin. Emily's pulse raced. The Genoese? Deeper than that. Lorenzo lowered his voice. The banker your father owes? He answers to the Pope's bastard son. The carriage lurched to a halt. Steel clashed outside. Masked horsemen ambushed them. Down! Lorenzo shoved Emily flat as a crossbow bolt thudded into her seat. Groping in the chaos, Emily found Lorenzo's dagger. She steadied her breath. Thank God for college fencing club. When Emily returned to Venice, the city was under martial law. She found Isabella hiding in a slum. Sister, I need you. Emily showed stolen ledgers. These prove father was framed. Isabella scanned the parchments, then gasped. This seal, it's the fishmonger's. He's no merchant, he's the Pope's spy. That night, they broke into the fish market's ice house. Amidst rotting cod, they found forged Medici documents. We must tell the Doge, Emily said. Fool, Isabella hissed. Notice anything? The guards' masks match our attackers. Bells tolled in the distance. The sisters locked eyes. The Doge himself was the mastermind. During Venice's carnival, Emily infiltrated the Doge's ball in silver mask and Isabella's borrowed breeches, Lorenzo's dagger at her hip. In a shadowed corner, Doge Gritty whispered with a cardinal. When the Medici reached the canal, suddenly, soldiers charged. "Seize that boy!" Emily fled, only to crash into someone at the corridor's end. "Tintoretto! This way!" The painter yanked her into a secret passage. Panting atop the bell tower, the city glittered below. Tintoretto blurted, "I always knew you were a girl." Emily blinked. "Then why?" "The way you talked art," he grinned. "No lady ever made my heart race so." An explosion lit the night. The final battle had begun. The bells of Venice echoed through the night as flames from St. Mark's Square painted the canals crimson. Emily and Tintoretto sprinted down the tower stairs, nearly colliding with a breathless Isabella. "The Doge's men are hunting Medici envoys," Isabella gasped, clutching Emily's arm. "Lorenzo is trapped at the fish market docks." Emily gritted her teeth. "Isabella, alert Titian! Have him rally the Painters Guild! Tintoretto, take me to the docks!" The trio split up. Emily followed Tintoretto through twisting alleys, the canal's whispers beneath their feet. At a narrow turn, masked soldiers blocked their path. "Halt! Curfew violators!" Tintoretto shoved Emily behind him. "We're Titian's apprentices fetching pigments." The leader scoffed. "That old lecher's in no position to protect you." He leveled his pike. "Search them!" Just then, a raspy voice cut through the dark. "Excuse me, gentlemen, might you direct me to the Doge's palace?" A hunched figure in a tattered cloak and beaked mask shuffled forward, clutching a strange brass cylinder. The guards turned. "Begone, lunatic! Lunatic!" The man removed his mask, revealing a wrinkled but keen face. "Galileo Galilei is no madman. 'Tis the world that lacks sense." Emily's jaw dropped. The young Galileo. While the guards were distracted, Tintoretto yanked Emily into a hidden passageway. The fish market reeked of salt and decay. Lorenzo, back to the pier's edge, faced 6 armed thugs. From behind crates, Emily watched the fishmonger wave a document. "Sign this, and Medici assets in Venice belong to His Holiness." Lorenzo spat blood but smiled. "My uncle always said Venetian fish stank worse than Roman cardinals." The traitor raised his dagger. "Stop!" Emily burst forth, upending a barrel of pickled herring. Fish and brine turned the dock into a slick battlefield as attackers flailed. Tintoretto hauled Lorenzo onto a gondola. As they rode away, Lorenzo wheezed, "They forged my uncle's debts to seize our banks." Emily pulled a scroll from her bodice. "The real ledgers, stolen from the Doge's study." Trumpets blared. A fleet of warships bearing the Lion of Venice's banner entered the harbor. Isabella had convinced the admiral. At dawn, the coup collapsed. Doge Gritty, fleeing by gondola, was betrayed by his own guards. The Venetian council, presented with Medici evidence, exposed the Pope's financial plot. On St. Mark's balcony, the Rossi sisters stood resplendent in silk. Lorenzo proclaimed, "By Medici decree, Anna Rossi's inheritance is restored, and Marco Rossi's debts voided." In the crowd, Marco wept with joy while Anna embraced her daughters. Later, at the Bridge of Sighs, Tintoretto hesitated. "I leave for Rome tomorrow. Might I paint your portrait first?" Emily nodded. When unveiled, the crowd gasped. Girl with a pearl earring captured her timeless wit and Venetian spirit, immortalized in oils. In Florence, Emily, now the Medici Bank's chief advisor, reviewed ledgers when a familiar voice called, "Signora, might you examine my new device?" Galileo wheeled in a contraption with 2 brass spheres. Emily beamed. "A gravity experiment?" "How could you know?" he gasped. She merely smiled. Outside, Isabella's carriage rolled by, Florence's most celebrated saloniere. And in Venice, Tintoretto's studio glowed with his masterpiece, the girl with the pearl earring, her smile holding centuries of secrets.